guys.
Hey, this is our first time being live on YouTube, so it's kind of exciting. And why are we live today, Shane?
Well, we're here mostly because we came down to visit with you guys.
We're physically here. When we're doing the podcast, we're not together.
That's right.
Two different states.
And this time we are in the same room, and it was just a good opportunity to get together and do a little chat. And honestly, I think this is kind of a release for us in a lot of different ways. I mean, getting the podcast done was without doubt not the easiest thing. And to be fair, I want everyone to know that she carried the burden of the podcast. She did. No, you did. All right. I'm not going to hear that. You did. You carried all of the graphics work. You got the thing set up. I mean, I helped out where I could, but you honestly did 90% of the work. I mean, and making the podcast itself was the easy part. The recording was the easy part.
Because we're just talking.
Right.
We're just having a conversation.
And there was nothing really difficult about that. It was everything that went on, in front of that. The front end work that you did, and then the graphics work, the beautiful logo, the lovely thumbnail pictures. All of that was a tremendous amount of work, and you carried that. So this is, if anything, a celebration of you for doing that, and it was just an opportunity for us to get together and to say hello to all of you. Probably going to talk a little bit about books today, because honestly, that's what 90% of our conversations are about. When we're together, we talk about books and writing the books and all things book. We were just a minute ago in the other room with my laptop, and Eris was showing me how to look at the
Amazon backend.
Yeah, the backend stuff from Amazon. I was trying to think, because it's in an Excel format as opposed to what I normally look at, which is just a report. We
were getting very nerdy with the deep dive.
And so that's the kind of things, because I'm a very new author, and that kind of back end stuff I do not have a lot of experience with. So that's what we do. We talk stuff about books. I think for the purpose of this kind of impromptu video, I would be thinking we'd be more talking about, I think one of the things that we talked about a little bit before we started this was writers and how writers deal with real world events and how it impacts their writing itself. The process. The ability to write. I think the thing that I was talking about is I'm very close to finishing another story that I have a due date on. And the last 3 days, I have tried to work on it, but I haven't really been very successful.
What do you have as a due date?
I can't.
So everybody knows why I'm looking down. I'm just want to remind, reminding our group on Facebook that we're live, because something we posted it 2-3 hours ago, and people have moved on. That was way back there in the feed. I'm just reminding people.
Okay. I can't really say I'm not.
Okay, well, that's fine. I kind of forget this. Yes, people are here. It's not just me asking Shane privately. Well, you're a project that has a due date.
Yeah, it has a due date. And I'm very close to being done with it, which is great, because I need to get it edited. I need to edit it myself, and then get it edited through my editor. And then it needs to go to the publishers so that they can review it and come back with whatever
they want, if any.
Edits or changes or things that I need to correct, but I just couldn't do it. I mean,
okay.
I couldn't get into finishing it, and it's one of those things when you're that close to the end of a story. At least for me, when I'm that close to the end of a story, that lead up to that very last little bit is always a slog, anyways. It's always like pulling teeth. But when you get there, I'm like, oh yeah. And it was just like I couldn't get anything down. Like nothing was happening. Nothing was happening, because I was constantly refreshing my browser to
I'm not gonna neither one of us are gonna get political, but let's face it, if you live in the US and even some people internationally are gonna say, the American presidential election is it's on everybody's mind. There's nothing else in the news. So that's it. And it's tense for a lot of people, and there's a lot of all anyone can talk about. You know what I mean? Like you go out to the grocery store, you get your groceries or whatever, and you just hear everybody in the background. That's all anybody's talking about.
Yeah, it is the constant chatter in the background. And a lot of times I can tune that out. This was one of those times though where I couldn't. So but it's not just the political, the election that's going on right now. There are other times where things have been going on in the world or in the romance community, where, at least for me, it becomes, I don't want to say a distraction, but it's things that you're cognizant of. And so sometimes you put bandwidth into those things and it does distract from your writing, or you have an opinion about something and you're getting a lot of input from outside sources, real world outside sources, that make it difficult to get yourself into that. This is what we were talking about, like getting yourself into the writing mindset is not as easy as some people might think. It's not like in my other day job, I go in, I log into my computer and I start working. And real world events and things going on out in the shop and whatnot will interfere with my ability to do that job, but not to the degree I find with writing, because I really have to be in a mindset.
I think because it's creative type stuff like that, it's very subjective. And, when I had day jobs, I go to work and I open an Excel file and I do some stuff, and that's all very binary. It's all very black and white. It's on or it's off.
Right.
There's no, I don't have to be creative. I just have to plug in the data and generate the report and give it to somebody. And everything, most things were pretty cut and dry. The answer was either A or B, and you take that information and you go here. But writing is not like that. Writing is like, there is an invisible something in the aether that I have got to pull out and make concrete. And there's no magic wand for that. Like there's just we've all got our own process, the way you do it, some probably different way than I do it, but it's all very subjective. And it's like, they make fun of people. It's like, okay, I've got to have this one little superstitious knickknack here, and I've got to have this and the music playing a certain way and the light at a certain level and a certain temperature. And people kind of joke, but it's kind of true. Like you've got to have your environment right, or it's not going to happen.
Right, exactly. And people, one of the other things people talk about and joke about and poo-poo sometimes is we talk about the voices in our heads, the story, the movie that's playing. And when there are outside distractions, it's hard for me, at least for me, to get the movie going, to listen to the voices. Sometimes just don't even talk. They're like,
and different people have I don't hear the voices. Like some people I hear my characters, and I don't. But I can agree with the movie thing. Yeah. Like I'm definitely seeing imagery. Like if I have a scene that I'm writing, I definitely have whatever the setting is, like whatever space they're in is very concrete in my head, where everything exists, what the lighting looks like, what, all that stuff. So I can definitely agree on that level. And I can't get into it if I have distractions. Or it's there and it's like nothing's happening. It's like the characters aren't in there, nothing's stagnant.
Right. It's black and white as opposed to being in color when I'm really into it.
Yeah.
The end, before this all started happening, like maybe 4 days ago, I was in a really, really, really cool scene, and it was really coming together. And I literally,
as well as his characters.
Yeah. Well, yes, very much so. In this case, very much so. That's very true. And I wrote 1,600 words in like 3 hours. I know. It was literally, I was just totally in focus. I knew what was happening. I could hear the scene, I could hear the voices, the scene unfolding, and there was zero distractions. And it was like I told Sin on the drive up here, it was like a switch got flipped. And I was struggling, and the good stuff was over, so to speak. And it was really just putting the final polish and their final.
I have a hard time resolving stuff sometimes. I'm like, okay, they did, writing the adult scene. I'm like, okay, they did the deed. Now what am I doing?
And I honestly, it's funny because I don't really have that much problem with that. I tend to struggle to lead in the lead up, and then during the dirty deed, don't have any issue there. And I really don't have any issue at the end. And this was a perfect case because I knew exactly what I wanted them to do, how I wanted there to be a little bit of edginess, and then it gets resolved and blah, blah, blah. I knew how I wanted to do all of that. And even before I finished the fun stuff, I knew how I wanted this to all wash out. And yet I couldn't write it. It was just like pulling teeth.
I feel that. And I'm an outliner. And that and then I feel like something's wrong with me. Because I'm like, I'm not a little bit of an outliner. Like, if I'm writing a scene, I've got all the bullet points of what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, it may not actually be bullet pointed, but I mean, I've written down all the beats that's going to happen in that scene. If I have already made notes for dialogue in the past, like, because sometimes if I think of things, I'll just go put it in the outline. Yeah. And then when I get there, I have them. So it's like, I may have a paragraph that tells me what's happening in the scene, or I may have lots and lots and lots of dialogue that's written. So I feel even more kind of, I don't want to say guilty, but yeah, I'm just like, why can't you do this? You've got the whole, you get the whole ass outline right here. Why can you not wrap the words around it? Like, why can't you make the words go?
And I think that's my point, or our point when we first started talking about this is there's a perception, though, that it is like going into work.
Yeah.
Where just open up the document and just start typing and everything just flows. And it's honestly, it's a little disconcerting for me. Before I started writing and actually publishing, when I was simply writing for Cynthia, things like this may have happened and I never really noticed them. Mm-hmm. I never made any connection with them because I was just really like, oh, okay, well then
there's no expectation other than I'm going to show it to my wife and it's cool and we'll enjoy it and then whatever. Right. Now there's like, well, but when I get it done with this, I'm going to show it to everybody. And
right.
It's going to get published, and I got to make a cover, and I got to make ads, and blah, blah, blah.
Right. So I don't want to say it's like work, because for me, it still doesn't feel like work. But there are parts of it that are very much like, oh, wow, I have to finish this. I can't just go, I'll get back to it later.
It's got to get done.
Right.
And people are like, where is it? Where's the book?
Yep.
The part for me where at least I try to take it up to the point where I have to let creativity happen to some extent is at least get in there, get sat down, get my environment how I like, get the document open, and at least try. Like, I can't always, guarantee. Some days I'll sit down and it's like, holy crap, I wrote 2,000 words at once. And then other days, I remember one time I said, what did I say? My word count was like 5 or something.
No, I was going to say, I thought it was like 20.
It was something absurd. I'm like, I wrote 4 words yesterday. No, it was in an hour. That was my point. I'm like, I wrote in an hour 4 words. And I'm just like, I can't make it go.
Yep. It's not that easy. It really is.
Normal. Now add in when something, like for me, it's usually when something is emotionally bothering me. Yeah. We were talking about earlier, I was saying last spring, my grandma passed, and she lives in the same state I live in, and so it's myself and one like other relative, like one of her kids, and that other relative was primarily taking care of my grandmother, but I was also kind of the other person who lives here close by that can help. Right. So when this was happening, I was called in to do a lot of, and which is fine, but it's like I can't. I'm already upset. Obviously, the passing of a loved one is a big thing, right. Even if I might have been even emotionally kind of ready for it to happen because, she had been deteriorating, right. All this stuff. So that's already one thing. And on top of that, it's like you can't, even if you think you can put grief aside, which sometimes you can, it's weirdly shocking sometimes when some of that happens that you don't grieve the way you think you're going to always. Oh, sure. Like you think I'm just going to be a train wreck for this time period that's going to fade off. Where like sometimes I felt oddly numb. I was like, shouldn't I be more upset? And then weird crap would set me off like months later for no reason.
But you said oddly numb, and that it's that numbing factor. At least when I've had to deal with it recently, that almost prevented me. You would think.
What prevented me wasn't the numbness. I'd be there and I'd be like, well, I guess I'm going to write. But then I'd sit there and I'd almost feel guilty. I'm like, you can't write this. Your grandma just died. You can't write a sex scene. What the hell's wrong with you? Like there's a little voice in my head like somehow this is disrespectful to write this, even though I know perfectly well. Like my grandma, she read dirty books. Like she as a person would not have cared.
Right.
But me as feeling guilty as a survivor of her, you know, whatever the term they used with, you would see that in what the obituary survived by.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I felt, I'm like, you can't write this right now. This is wrong.
See, I never felt the guilt part, but
I did a little bit. I'm like, you can't write a blowjob right now. It's not appropriate.
Not appropriate.
I can't get into, well, it's like, if I'm writing a scene, I'm like mentally immersed. I cannot get mentally immersed. And it's even if I think, the point being is, even if I think I'm kind of numb and I think maybe I could do this, you never get to like turn it off for a while because there's another phone call tomorrow and then another relative is calling you. And then I have to go here and then I have to help clean out an apartment. So there's just a time period where everything is revolving around some other event. And I would think even if I write late at night, it's not even about disrupting my time because all that stuff is long done by the time of night I get to writing. But even still, you just sit on the couch with a laptop and you're just like, I got nothing. Nothing's happening. I can't.
Yeah, but that to me, there was no feeling of guilt, but it was that sense of just like, I got nothing. I just can't.
It's like your emotional energy is involved to turn the wheels of the writing, and I've already used it all up on all this other stuff, on all my relatives, and all this other stuff has just sapped all of that. Right,
and again, what you would think, well, it should be fun and exciting and it's sexy and it, you know, why wouldn't you want? No, I was like, I just can't put myself in that headspace, that mindset to write those kinds of things.
I'm sure some of that has happened with you. I mean, you and your family immediately have had the health things going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there's a lot of concern with Cynthia. There has been. Things are not looking bad at all or anything like that. But it doesn't stop you from in certain moments thinking, because even the doctors and the oncologists, everyone will tell you, well, nothing is 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
And the other thing that they always say is that you will be dealing with this with Cynthia for the rest of your life. It doesn't ever completely go away.
Even if you know, okay, a treatment is happening, you're still miserable watching your spouse be
Sure.
miserable. You're just like, oh God, and I can't help him, and I'm doing what I can do, and what I can do is almost nothing. That's pretty.
Right. And that was especially true in the most recent instance where she was going through radiation. Yeah, I mean, there was literally nothing I could do. So it's just one of those things where being in those kinds of situations, much like we were here just recently with the whole political thing, are not conducive to writing.
No.
And as writers, we're not machines, and we just can't turn that kind of stuff off. It happens. It goes on around us.
Little disruptions I can do, but not big, ongoing, like things that are affecting everybody, or that's my whole life. Like if I have a bad day and, you know, my husband and I have, you know, one of those where you're married, you know, some of those days you have one of those days you just butt heads all day. It's just one, you know, something's in the water that day. And sometimes, like if I have a day like that and later on I'm awake and he's asleep, or I'm like, I can kind of compartmentalize that because I know that that's just temporary married people stuff. Exactly. It's not the big deal. It's not the apocalypse. We'll work it out, you know. Right.
Whereas those are not the kinds of things that I think we were talking about. Yeah. And you're right. Because
disruptions.
But things that are much broader in scope or have broader implications long term, it's much harder.
Where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
When Sen and I are having an argument or something like that, I know it's going to be resolved eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually, I will go to her. I will apologize. I will tell her she was right. I will say I was wrong. And
we'll move past this.
We'll move past
well, especially when you're married to for a long time, because you know, y'all know you have the same 5 topics that you get into it all the time. It's like the same 5 trigger situations that always cause you to butt heads. So it's like if it's one of those, you're like, we go around about this like every 3 months. It's just gonna, you know,
it's gonna resolve itself. Things where there is no immediate knowing what the resolution will be are the kinds of things that prey on your mind. So, other things that we said we would talk about a little bit is things like what new book might you be coming out with sometime soon?
I'm never writing another book again. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm working on The Mortal Coil, which I've been literally telling everyone for 2 years now. So I'm pretty sure nobody believes me. I think they think I'm just over here, just I don't know what, doing nothing. But yeah, I'm working on The Mortal Coil, which is the second book in the Flames of Olympus series. So they don't have to be read in any kind of order. They're just all in that universe. So the first one was Hades and Persephone, and then this one will be Medusa and Perseus. I don't know why I have to stop. Like, I can't even remember the name of my own characters I've been writing for like years now. But yeah, I'm working on that. I would say I don't want to say I'm in the home stretch because that sounds a lot more ambitious than I am, but I think I'm working on chapter 14 out of 16. So that's closer. Now, I will say that I write longer chapters than a lot of people. A lot of people, I think, break them up a lot. Like, I tend to be like 5 to 8,000 words. And I think a lot of people do like maybe around 3. So I notice a lot of books have like 30 chapters. If you look at any of my books, some of them have 8 chapters or 9 or 10. So for me to even be at 16 is what that's telling you is I'm buckling to like industry wisdom and trying to make them smaller, but they're still not that small. It's going to be it's already at 70,000-ish words. So it's almost the length of the 8,000. It's as long as Bass Backwards now, and it's not done. So it's already a full novel length right now. Yeah. It's not a novella or anything like that.
But what little bits and pieces that you've shared with me, it is phenomenal.
Oh,
and it will really be an incredible novel.
I'm very excited to get done with it and get it out there for people to.
But I have to bust your chops about
you totally should. The chops need to be busted on all fronts.
Right. It's been lingering.
It takes a really long time, and I keep I don't know how to say no to stuff, so I end up doing other things. And I need to stop. I'm trying to be better about it.
and other things like, getting involved in a podcast.
That was my idea. So it's not, I don't want to blame it me. I didn't Shane didn't sucker me into this. I was like, hey, Shane, you want to do a podcast?
Thank you.
I dragged him into it.
I just wanted it on record that this wasn't me dragging you into something else, thus delaying the completion of The Mortal Coil.
If it wasn't one thing, it's going to be another. But no, I need to be on it more.
Well, but it is difficult. Again, it's the wanting to be able to work solely on something like The Mortal Coil, and then knowing that you have to do the cover work that you do, because you are a very well-respected and well-liked.
I'm not a cover designer. I don't know if we need all those kind of extra
adjectives
on there.
I would ask any author that might be listening to this, who has used or seen your covers, to say that you are. No, you shut me down there, and it's not true. You are. I've seen when your covers are revealed during cover reveals. Oh my God, that's an Eris cover, or oh, I love the work she does. So you can't diminish that because it's recognized. People have actually said it. I read it. So you have that work that you're doing already, and there's an instance where you do have deadlines.
Yeah, there are commitments to people, and I'm like, we're literally doing this podcast, and there's probably people watching the podcast like, why are you making a podcast and not making my cover literally right now, woman? So that's probably I'm gonna have to hide later. And this time of year ends up being really bad because it seems in our household, basically by mid-October, shit ain't slowing down till January. Yeah. We've got birthdays, we've got anniversaries, we got the normal holidays that happen. Which granted this year, in theory, ought to be more chill because there's COVID. We're not going anywhere.
But it's still.
Should we stop to address the fact that both of us intensely don't go anywhere? Neither us nor our spouses. I don't want you guys to think we're just sitting here, just oh yeah, we were totally out in public all over the place, and now we're just here coughing on each other.
Well, okay.
We're both very quarantine,
and that's a good thing to address.
Yeah.
Because Cynthia and I literally, unless it is something that we have to do for her oncology treatments or chemo or whatnot, and shopping, because we still need to get food, and neither one of us will use Instacart, but only for certain things. Mm-hmm. There are certain things that we just will not use Instacart or trying to think of the other service where you go by and curbside pick up,
right.
and you let the people in the store pick your stuff. we won't do that. It's just our personal preference.
I There's some stuff that I don't like either.
Other stuff
Anyway.
we'll utilize those. But the point I was going to make is we don't go out.
Yeah.
And there's a very good reason why we don't go out, and it is because she is immunodeficient right now because of the chemotherapy and the radiation, which she only just completed like a month ago. And I won't take any chances.
Yeah.
So, and not only that, but we're constantly being tested, especially when we were doing radiation. Every time we went into that facility, they didn't do the full-on test. They did that to us two times or three times. I can't remember now. With the whole.
Did they have the nose crazy?
Yes.
The nose swab?
Oh, and that is not.
It was not ideal, is what he's saying.
It's not as simple. I mean, it's simple, but it's a very uncomfortable and jarring feeling.
Yeah, I can admit that. That's not you're not accustomed to having things shoved up there.
Not that far.
You're just like.
Yeah. So, and the reason why they were doing it was, of course, to make sure not only that we had not gotten COVID, but that we weren't going into
a hospital.
Because essentially you're going, especially in the radiation center, you're going into a room when you first get there where there's a dozen people that are all cancer patients.
Yeah.
So they're all already immuno.
They're like, listen, patient zero, we need you to wait outside.
Yeah.
It's like,
and you know, if they found out that you had it, they simply would have said, well, we're going to have to make different arrangements. And they told us they would make different arrangements for Cynthia to be able to get her radiation treatments where she wouldn't have come into any contact with anybody. So we've been extremely careful about that sort of thing. And I know that you have too.
Yeah, we don't go. And my husband and I both work for ourselves at home, so we really don't get out. Like we got groceries, and then more like lately we've started just ordering them and going to pick them. Like they just put them in the car and stuff. So we've been doing that a lot more. But I mean, we don't go anywhere like at all. So we've been hiding.
So
we're just addressing the fact that I don't want you guys to think we're being irresponsible and just be like, hey, what's up, buddy? All in the middle of a pandemic. Like we both have been hermits. So
yeah, and we talked about it for when we first talked about getting together. You know, are you comfortable? And I made the joke when I arrived. I told my man, I can't, you know, don't want to get you guys upset or anything about me not having my mask on. But honestly, it should be a concern, and it is a concern for nearly everyone. We've been super diligent about it, and when we were talking to you, Cynthia and I felt comfortable with it. So that's why we even agreed, especially with what's going on right now. Because in any other circumstance, we might easily have said, you know, it would sound
like, I want to see you guys, but if you're not comfortable, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Right. I'm not trying to make you feel like you're exactly. At risk.
And part of it was also because we had been so socially distanced. The only people, aside from my son, who lives near us, that we've actually like interacted with was when my daughter came out.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, going to the grocery store, a lot of the times, Sin doesn't even come in. She just sits out in the car. She will come in for specific things, but you don't interact with the clerk. You're both very pleasant.
Yeah, we generally do self-checkout almost all the time.
Yeah, or that's what I was going to say. Absolutely, you do self-checkout if you're in a store where you can do that. So it was just nice. I'm not going to lie. It was just very nice. It has been very nice to just actually come and have
a human being,
human interaction.
That person that you actually know, not some rando.
Yeah, and you can sit across the table, and like we've been doing, we've been spending most of our time talking about writing, you know,
just other dumb stuff.
Well, last night was the dumb videos thing. We were watching videos. The guy that does the lighting, that guy was incredible. That does all this
random crap on YouTube. I was showing.
And then the animal videos, which of course, how can you go wrong with animal videos? But again, it's been very nice, and we have appreciated that you guys were willing to let us come.
We're very happy. I mean, he's been in my house before, so it's not like we're going to be like, you could never come back.
Well, no, that's kind of what I expected.
Oh,
I mean,
jeez. There's so this guy. I come out this morning and we had like a pot from dinner last night that still had some sauce in the like a residue. This man is trying to go in my sink and wash this pot. I'm like, stop. Just sit. You're a guest. Don't be cleaning. Like, sit down. And he's just cleaning. I'm like, you're giving me anxiety right now. I need you to stop.
okay,
just go sit down.
It was not my intention to give you
have a muffin or something. You can have muffins.
It wasn't my intention to give you anxiety.
I don't think it was.
However, I thought I was doing something nice for you.
I know that from your point of view that yes, I understand.
No,
that's from your POV. I get it. Like, I get it. And
I understand.
I'm sorry. I kind of yelled at you. I kind of yelled at you. Ashley, please stop. You're giving me a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, you did. You did. You were very much. Please don't do that. Please, it's making me very anxious. And I was like, okay, I said it. But you will notice that I didn't stop cleaning the one. I was like, I wouldn't do it until it was done.
His wife had to yell at him to stop because he wouldn't.
Listen, let's be honest. It was just an excuse, okay? She just seized the opportunity. It was there. It was low-hanging fruit. She was like, okay, this is another opportunity. No, that's not true. That is not true. Okay, let's address something else because you were the one that started this.
Oh, sure.
The couch. Okay,
Oh,
the couch.
Can you just come here to give me anxiety?
No. Folks, this is absolutely the most comfortable couch. But it is a well-worn-in couch. And I know
that's a nice way to put it.
I know that everyone out there has had that one piece of furniture in their life that it's not brand new, didn't just come off of the Ashley showroom floor.
That is probably where we bought it from, honestly.
It is that piece of furniture though that you've had for a while. It's broken in. It's nice. It's comfortable. You can sink into it. In fact, I looked at that picture and I'm like, okay, I look really awkward in that picture.
You look like you're having the most awkward time sitting on that couch, like you're just perched, like I'm like, that can't be comfortable.
No, that's the point. It's extremely comfortable.
Like if you moved 1 inch to the left, you just collapse onto his wife, like just.
And you say that like it's a bad
Well,
thing.
I realized as soon as I said that, I was like, yeah, he probably's okay with that part.
No, it's and you're like, oh, it's old and oh, it's.
I get. So here's the thing. I will agree of its comfiness because probably most of the books that people have read, I was sitting right there on that couch and just snugged in and like yes.
I was going to bring that up, but that's part of the reason why.
So, but we like last summer or when we got a new couch because the old couch the one that Shane was sitting on and then its partner, the one he was sitting on is a love seat and the partner is the big couch. We'd had them like 10 years and we have cats and they've destroyed the ends of the couch. And so we were trying to be like, we need to get another couch. This is ridiculous. Like people can't come over. Like that one's the least bad. The other one is a situation with the couch, with the cat scratching. So we're like, let's get a new couch. So we got a new couch like adults and it looks nice and everything. And they came out last summer and I'm like, Shane, look at this brand new couch I got for you to sit on. When you came, him and his wife wedge into like our old, like just shitty couch and insist on like, please stop, please sit on the nice couch I bought for you. So anyway, whatever, that's fine. But as the rest of, a year has turned around, I don't sit on that couch at all. Nobody does. The only bodies on that couch are little hairy cat bodies. Mm. And they lay on there every night, and I don't vacuum it. It just is over there existing. And I didn't have time to vacuum it before he died. So he goes on I'm like, oh God, you're going to be covered in hair. And he gets up off the couch later. His whole pants, he had like khakis, just all fucking hair. Just hair all down the side.
It was the best. It was absolutely the best. It is the best.
It's just hairy. And it's embarrassing for people to sit on it. And he's just like, oh yeah, I'm in there. Like, just stretching down in there so comfy.
I'm not gonna lie, it was comfy. It was very comfortable, and the cat hair doesn't bother me. You've been.
I know you have cats, but I don't know. You have there's just years of
cat buildup, and then
there's years of like grand parental shame just coming down. Like your house ought to be so pristine that people could just lick every surface and you'd be okay with that. You know what I mean? Well, and listen, don't talk about whatever surfaces you've been licking because I don't want to know what goes on. All right, but like, that's what I'm saying. That's where the anxiety with you were like, I'm gonna wash this pot out. all I could just see my grandmother, like, there shouldn't have been a dirty pot. Everything in that kitchen should have been immaculate.
Wow, so
there shouldn't have been one fucking fork out. And like, she wouldn't have said that. It's just that was the way her house was kept. And I remember when I first moved out into like my first apartment.
Yeah.
And she came over while I was gone to do something. Like we were gone, and someone was gonna come over and walk the cats or something.
Okay.
And I would come over, and I came out. She had cleaned like all this stuff, and it just made me feel like shit, man. I'm like, man, I'm not capable of being an adult because my grandma felt the need to come in and clean all my stuff. So obviously, I'm not, capable. So it's just whenever, like, so Shane doesn't understand the flood of like memories of incompetence at adulthood that he's triggering when he goes in my kitchen and starts washing my pots. I'm just like, yeah. Failure. This is my friend who I respect, and now he knows that I'm just a toddler with a mortgage and who can't like.
Oh, whatever.
I say that as though I wash the dishes at all in the fucking first place. My husband washes the dishes, so yeah, I don't do any work. I'm lazy. Oh, Julia Fortune is here. She says that's what us OCD people think.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, apparently my OCD comes out in other shit and not cleaning. Mine comes out in like the fact that I'll waste 5 hours making a spreadsheet on something when I should have just been doing like some other task.
Well, none of what you were concerned about, in my opinion, was anything you needed to be concerned about. And I say that in the sense that you have an absolutely beautiful home.
Thank you.
You have. I know you've recently shown pictures. We're in the room, for those of you who might have followed some of what Eris was recently showing when you redid this. Redid the floor and then repainted this soffit ceiling. And it is, the pictures.
You pointed out the teal ceiling,
Yeah, the teal ceiling. And the pictures that you posted made it look very, very good. But in reality, the color is richer, it's deeper, and the floor itself is, I mean, it is phenomenal.
We're really happy with the floor.
Yeah, it turned out really nice. And this room is beautiful.
So I paid someone to do it. So I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, I don't.
Still, you have a beautiful home. A single pot that I just grabbed to wash out does not define who you are as a person.
He's gonna start doing my laundry next, you guys. I say he's gonna start doing my laundry next. I'm coming out in the morning. He's like doing a load of towels for no reason.
Okay, I'm down. Let's show me where. Actually, I know where. That's right.
Because you have to come into my house past the laundry.
Yeah, well, through that entrance we come through the laundry room. Also, I've managed now twice actually more than twice in the 2 times that I've been here to walk into your laundry room at night when I've gotten up and not realize.
I think it's the bathroom or something. Yeah, because we have a hallway and all the doors look the same. So
right. And
why am I outside?
I haven't gone that far yet. I have noticed.
We've been advised for me to put a bunch of stuff out for you to do.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have been asking him about various home improvement conundrums that I have. Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand how to attach this event. Anyway, dumb stuff.
Yeah, and there's another thing though. I said, it won't be that difficult. No.
Just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Like, I didn't invite you here to do work on my house. Like, hey, I'm gonna trick this guy into being my friend, and then invite him to my house so he can fix all my shit. Like, give me a break.
Wow. Okay, that's fine.
I'm laughing, by the way, as while we're doing this video. I'm like, I can see the stuff in the background, and I'm like, I really do have like a little old lady sense of what stuff. I have these little plates and shit.
Oh my god. How's that little old lady?
Especially the plates. I get this like old painting. It's kind of funny. Anyway, there's pointless.
I don't understand it. I mean, unless you're trying to say that only little old ladies can have tchotchkes and knickknacks.
No, I just feel that a lot of my aesthetic is kind of like my grandmother's aesthetic.
Oh.
As I sit at my grandmother's table.
Well, this is the room, and I think I've told this story, when Sen and I first came here, which is, God, has that been a year ago?
It was more than a year, because you came out last June, early June?
Yeah, you're right. It was before, because
we went to Vegas like almost like a week and a half later or something.
That's right. This was the room that we gravitated towards, because this room, the decor in the room, the books that you have, and it has a very calming presence.
Well, we're book nerds, and it's the library, so.
Yeah, and
Plus,
I mean,
when you look at someone's books and they're not there, you could like start extrapolating information about them.
oh god,
I mean, actually, what I should probably do is take a good look around, because when I was at Shane's house, I just randomly rearranged a fucking book on his shelf.
That was the best.
Like an asshole. Like, why? Who does that? Me. So now I'm like looking around, like, is Shane fucking with my books? Which is, I would do.
Well,
I would deserve it.
I wasn't going to, but now that
Now he's like, guys, hold on, now I'm gonna screw something.
obviously I'm going to have to set an alarm for like 2 a.m. and come in here.
You're gonna have to wait until probably 4 or 5, because at 2 I'll probably be awake.
That's true. You
No,
are
I'm nocturnal.
freaking night.
I went to bed early last night, like 1:40.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I was tired. I was like, I've been up so long. I'm like, all right, just go to bed. And even when I went to bed, I tried to read my book for a little bit. Tried to read my Kindle. I stopped reading the Kindle when it falls and hits me in the forehead. Then I know it's
There you go. There you go. I stayed up.
She said rearrange her old lady plates.
No, I don't want to rearrange the old lady plates. They're not old lady plates.
It just sounds like an innuendo. Just rearrange her old lady plates.
Oh wow. Okay, hold on. Hold on. We can work with this. No, last night we were watching the videos, but it was what, 11? It was after 11. It was after 11. My deal is that getting up at
you guys got up early.
Yeah, we got up at 5:30 because I wanted to be out on the road. First of all, to try to miss traffic because it was a Friday.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to get here in plenty of time. So I was a little tired, and I was feeling it a little at 11 o'clock. Last time we were here, you and I stayed up until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Now
I know we stayed up later, but I didn't remember.
Yeah, it was like 2 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning, 2:30. And then when we were in Dallas together,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And it was at that point I'm like, we should do a podcast because we don't ever shut up when we're in the same
Well,
room.
and it was true. And not only that, but you then left because you had to go back to where you were staying.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's like almost 4 o'clock in the morning. Are you sure you could stay here? But you would have had to sleep on that little freaking couch thing.
Yeah, and it was, I like felt bad. Like I was staying at someone's house, and I'm like, I'm already going to be coming in super late and being disruptive. So I mean, I tried to be quiet, but
yeah,
I'm very cognizant of trying not to disrupt people's sleep, which I say loudly as possible while his wife is trying to take a nap, like right in the next room, and I'm like, blah blah blah. So great.
Oh,
she has warned us that she could sleep through a lot, but we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, really. We'll see when we're done.
Let's be super loud in this echoey room.
Anyways,
book topics.
Books, yeah. Back to book topics. No.
So on the book front, what are you in particular? Because we're always in the middle of a struggle. What are you struggling with the most?
Okay.
And it could be anything. It could be the writing of the book. It could be marketing, publishing. It could be whatever. Angst.
Okay. So the angst that is what we talked about earlier, is that I was finding it and I'm at the end of this story, and I'm very happy with the way the story is going. I, of course, am over this because it's going into a publisher. Mm-hmm. I have a word count limitation.
Sure.
So I have that, and of course I've gone over. But I'm realizing as a writer that that's just my style. Mm-hmm. I cannot not write down backstory, even though I know that
you'll have to probably take a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, I know it's going to have to come out, but I just can't not do it.
And some of it, maybe it's just you're figuring it out for yourself when you write that stuff down. Like it's a mental exercise to get yourself to know what the heck happened to this character and whatever. Even if then once you have that, then later you can find more subtle ways to kind of leak it out into the narrative.
It's something that you and I talked about well over a year ago, when I was first even thinking about becoming a writer, and it's just something I've discovered about my writing style. I have to get that stuff out, even though I know that it's not driving the story forward in terms of what the narrative of this story is. It's all stuff that comes ahead of it that the readers don't need to know. Now, sure, I'm sure there's some people out there that go, "Oh, I would love to hear all of that." Mm-hmm. But in terms of the actual story that I'm writing at this moment, it will go away. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I have that ahead of me. At the same time, I have realized over the course of now 4 books, that's just my process. I have to get it out there. So I know I'm facing that with this story. And then once I've trimmed away all of that stuff, then there will be the normal editing that comes.
Do you just have, like you were saying, you're at like, no pun intended, you know what I mean? But you're at the climactic scene. That's where you got stuck because of all the current.
I finished climactic.
Okay, and so you have a little bit of.
I have the
exposition, or
the
the
denouement, the closing, the time.
The fancy words there.
The tying up of the final threads of this story and the two. There you go. There you go. That's the Jack Revenue reference that I've been waiting for.
You've been waiting for it all day.
Yeah, I haven't done it in any of the podcasts.
There's no flies coming.
Yeah.
It's going to come. It's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I was through the good stuff, let's say. Yeah. And not that I don't think that the final little pieces.
The gratuitous part that we're like, haha, we get to write all this nasty shit. What are you going to do about it?
Right. That was where I was getting hung up. Even though I'm happy and I know what I want to happen, and I'm pleased. It's just I couldn't get it out.
I totally understand that. I felt with the most recent of the, as I've said before, as I like to term, the fucking that happens at some point in all of my books. There's the climactic scene, and when I had wrote it took me forever. I think it took me like 8 weeks to write that scene. But it was just, I know what needs to happen, but I would just struggle with, okay, but how do I express what's happening? How do I say this in a way that, one, I get across what I want? Like, you can't, it's not horseshoes and hand grenades, man. I got to get across exactly what I mean. And then I can't, if anybody's read my books, you know my style. I'm not like utilitarian about it. Like, especially when it's an important, sex scene, I get kind of flowery. So it's like, I'm trying to like, especially when it's really like an epic scene, it's like I really got to come up with language that conveys how important this is.
That's what it is.
And I get hung up on that sometimes because I'm like, this scene is the most important scene in this book. I have got to like nail it. I can't like just pick any old words. And I get really hung up. And everybody says to write drunk and edit's over, and I just can't. I can't work like that. I just sit there until it's how I want it. And the thing you're doing when you're saying, oh, I got to do all this backstory and I know I'm going to get rid of it, it's like I go through that too, but it's just our process parts happen at different times. Like I go through that, but it's in my outlining phase where it not just the outline of the book, but I also have like documents of notes about those characters, about their backstory, and they're just ugly notes. It's not pretty narrative. It's just, they grew up here. This is that, blah, blah, blah. It's nasty,
And I think that's interesting because I think we've both discussed, I'm a plantser. I do a little bit of plotting, but very little. I mostly go, you're very much a plotter. So you have that on the front end. You can front load that kind of backstory stuff during your whole, your plotting process.
And it's just, it's happening. It's just happening at a different time. Yeah.
And for me, I have to like write it down because.
But that's what greases the wheels for your brain to do it that way.
It does. I thinking back even in this most recent story, I was like, the way the story ended up, because I don't plot, it still ended pretty much the way I expected it to. But the backstory that I wrote at the beginning that I know I'm going to cut away is what helped me get there.
Exactly.
It helped me.
You have to know the mechanics of how that person works.
Yes.
Right. From their point of view, or to understand why they're doing,
exactly
this thing or that thing.
Right. It helped me establish. And I'm mostly thinking about the male character. It helped me establish better who he is than what I originally had him envisioned in my mind, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I had him envisioned in my mind in a
I totally get that.
Yeah. 100%. But once I wrote the backstory stuff, like I would just point to the very first chapter is like almost 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 words. I'm going to lose all of that. I know there's not. Now I will have to bring little bits and pieces of it back into,
so that people can understand some stuff.
and that's exactly how, but it will become more organic to the overall story, because it will be like you were telling me that one night, and I still remember it. You can feed those little bits and pieces in throughout the main part of the story, and it becomes like seasoning to the story, as opposed to just being a bucket of salt at the beginning.
Yeah, I think my metaphor is a lot more gross than that, but I believe you.
I was just being kind.
Oh, I'm not going to be kind. I was like, information, you need to like, it's like you need to leak out information, like how like celebrity scandals leak out and you find out a little piece. Yeah. You don't want to, what they call, you know, when you big a big X, you don't want to info dump. So my shorthand for that has been take a leak, not a dump. Yeah. Because that's the kind of sense of humor I have, which is why I'm not allowed anywhere in public.
Yeah, well, I was trying to, you know.
Oh, I'll go there. I don't care.
Obviously you did. I mean, you just did. You totally went for the scatological humor. Take a leak, don't take a dump.
I have Deadpool on my shirt. You can see what sort of people I admire. Like,
yes.
Fair enough.
There you go.
And I feel like Deadpool also would decorate his place with old lady plates. Like, I feel like that's on brand.
Yeah, I think so too. No, really. I mean, honestly, you know, those kinds of memorabilia that help spark little memories of things that he can then, you know, cling on to while he's destroying everything else around him.
Yeah.
That's Deadpool.
That sounds appropriate.
In a nutshell. No, it's just, I did it during Ferris too. And I think I actually told this story in the group. Stella Moore, I don't want to say, she beta read Ferris. And I had this section, and I didn't want to poison the well, so I didn't say anything to her. But I had this section. I let her read it, and I said, "So what do you think?" And God bless Stella, even though she busts my chops all the time, she very politely wrote back, "Well, this is a wonderful little snippet or section, and I just want to point out though that, you know, you might want to take a look at that and maybe trim it back a little bit, because this particular part doesn't really move the story. It's a wonderful story, and maybe you should save it for another book." And it was exactly what I had thought. I fought against it though, because I'm one of those writers, and this was a very good instance of, I wrote this scene and I loved it, and I thought it develops this guy's character. It tells a little bit of his backstory. It's funny and humorous and a little bit of pathos to it. But as she pointed out, after I had said, "Okay, thank you, that's what I needed to hear. Now, can we talk about this a little bit?" I said, you know, I said all those things that I said about that scene, and she said, "Yeah, but it's to a secondary character. It's all about a secondary character." She says, "You have the main character, which is Ferris, come in, sit down. This guy tells this 4,000 almost monologue story."
Meanwhile, actually, Ferris has fallen asleep.
Well, in a sense, it's like he tells this 3,000 word story. It's a great story, and then Ferris goes, "Oh, okay, thank you."
And like one-line response.
Yeah, essentially. And then we move to the next section, which is from Layla's point of view, and the both of these sections help resolve the conflict, the main conflict, which is they're not communicating. So this one section has 3,000 words from a secondary character talking about how you need to communicate to get things done. In Layla's section, it's 2 paragraphs, her boss and her, or her friend, her boss's lover, and her talking, and you get you get it all. She said, "So you spent 3,000 words with a secondary character to get that notion of go talk to your partner, and you spent 2 paragraphs." And she says, "Do you kind of see a problem there?" And I was like, and I'm like, "Yeah, yes, yes." But again,
I remember the feedback I got on books, so I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Yeah, it was like, but it's such a. She says, "Yes, it's a great scene. Cut it out, set it aside in your little document of all these great scenes. Because I don't know if you do this, but I sometimes, well, not sometimes, I have what I call walking thoughts when I go on my walks.
Sure.
And I'll get these thoughts, random thoughts of something I'm not even writing at that moment, just a random scene. And I'll write a synopsis of it down, and it goes in this little document.
Yeah, I've got some note file things on like OneNote sometimes on my phone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not often because I'm a homebody and I'm not out, but like even if I had the computer, I'm like, oh, I should remember to include this when I write this book. Or like I find a link of information. There's a lot of like research crap that goes into like some of those settings. I was like, oh, put this down here, and then make some notes about, oh, maybe you should have this character do this and have these guys blah blah blah. So I do that. Yeah. I do that stuff.
It's just a way of keeping track of random thoughts, because I am Walter Mitty. I swear to God, I can walk down that road and come up with something sexual in between here, the end of the road, and back. And so I'll do that. And so that's what she was saying. She said, just take it out, put it in that little folder wherever you keep your random thoughts, and there'll be a place for it someplace else. But in the case within this book, it's not. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, when I was revising the 8th House, because originally it had been on Literotica, and it was about 40,000 words. The version you can get now on Amazon's 80,000 words. So a lot of material was added. For reasons I won't bore everyone to death. But when I was revising it, one of my author friends who was giving me feedback on the new material and the way it was being reworked, I added, there was an additional exposition that is that the right word? No, that's at the end exposition. What's in the beginning? It wasn't really prologue.
Yeah.
I'm using the wrong one. But the point is, at the beginning, I added new material at the beginning of the book because I was trying to have Persephone be a bit more complex than she was in the original version. I wanted some other motivations for her besides just her being there and having sexy times. Like, that's cool and everything, but it was a very linear plot before. Right. There was not a lot of other things going on. So I was working on that, and there was a lot of time of Persephone walking through this ancient Greek town and thinking stuff as she goes, and there was a lot of it. And my friend was like, you know, this is cool information, but I really think this is a big ass info dump. Yeah. And you really need to split this up. Like, we don't need to know all of this right now. She's like, I feel like you could take all of this, take almost all of it out, and then just start like meeting it out over the first like 3 chapters. And at the time I was like, you're probably right. And then even though I knew she was right, I was still like, but it's hard to do because but that was what I did. I copied it and then I pasted it off into another Word document, and I kind of highlighted some. I'm a big color coder, so I kind of highlighted some things where I'm like, okay, all this information I want to show up in this other scene here, and all this information I want to show up elsewhere. And then as I went back to kind of rework those scenes, I would then refer to that other document and be like, okay, how can I thread in this information without it being, you know, here, let me tell you the story and telling you all the backstory. Right. Hey, look who's here, Miss Rhonda.
Oh, Rhonda's here. Well, hey, it's been wonderful. Hope you enjoy watching this later on, Rhonda.
Just calling out names.
So just to be fair, Rhonda, so that you know right up front what you're not going to get in this video, there will be no discussion of candy corn. There will be no discussion of puns, and there will be no discussion of sausage. All right? Nowhere in this video will that happen.
But
oh, no.
On that, I have something that's not on that list I want to ask you about. What is this I hear about a goat?
Oh my God, that goat shit is...
I've been asked, and I'm bringing it up. I'm addressing this issue.
That's Kim. That's Kim Hines, and... Okay, no, wait a minute. I went into a takeover. Yeah. I went in a takeover, and Kim Hines was there, and I, honest to God, right this minute, cannot remember why this goat came up, but there was somebody brought up a goat and how cute this goat was. And I did not promise her a fucking goat. But somehow, whatever I did say, I was like, oh yes, this is a cute goat, or oh, you should get a goat, or I didn't ever say I should buy you a goat, but that's what it became.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it became. Somehow it got twisted around into, oh, Shane Starrett is buying Kim a goat, and it was like,
he's like, I don't even know where to buy a goat.
And then so it's like I tried to get out of it. All right, so I tried to play it off. Oh well, I tried to buy you a goat, Kim, but it got lost in the U.S. mail. Okay, sure. Nobody's going to believe that I bought a goat in the United States and tried to mail it to Kim because she lives in the United Kingdom and blah blah blah.
But for a goat to go.
And it wouldn't have survived. And yeah, I didn't want to send Kim a goat carcass. But at
that's like a threat.
Yeah, that's
now it's like a threat.
Yeah, now it's gone totally
It's gone
the Godfather route. Here's your cart. So it was like, okay, no, you're not getting a fucking goat from me. And no. Now it's been picked up by everyone. When's Kim getting your goat? Why isn't Kim got her goat? The other day I got, and I think it was from you, Rhonda. I got a little goat plushie, and I'm like,
this is just escalated to some whole thing. You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know what reality is anymore.
It was innocent. It was innocent at the beginning, and now it's become this thing where Shane Starrett owes Kim Hines a goddamn goat, and he's a bastard asshole for not getting her. He got her hopes up, and blah blah. And now look at him. He just. And I'm like, it was not me. It's, you know what? And Kim, if you're out there.
You're being accused of not being innocent in the comments.
I am innocent. Okay. I am totally innocent. My innocence is.
Oh, you know what we can do? We can't do this with the way the laptop's plugged in. I'm like, there's clearly a goat like right out there on my neighbor's property.
Yeah,
we're going to go steal that fucking goat.
No, we're not going to steal the goat. I'm going to take
a pretty big goat. It's like a baby that you can smuggle in a suitcase. You'd notice.
Yeah, and I'm not putting
it in all your clothes.
I'm not putting it in the back of my car.
There's an alpaca. Does that count? The next door. We could just
see an alpaca that's going to fit in the back of my car any better than that goat?
I don't know.
No, I'm going to take a picture of the goat. I'll even throw that out.
You don't take that alpaca home. You're going to be alpaca lacking.
That was a pun.
Yeah, it was.
That was a pun. And I very clearly said that in this video, and yet now you've decided that you were going to go for it.
That's right.
What was it that...
we don't have the DS relationship. I just do what the fuck I want and annoy the shit out of you is what happens.
Really?
That's okay. That's all right. Because you'll get me back and it'll be...
Oh, hell to the
yes.
top.
You'll get me back and I'll earn it and that's fine. Yeah. I accept the consequences of my actions.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. You know what? You just pile on with Rhonda and the whole ball peen hammer candy. And
I didn't even know about that. Yeah, I've seen jokes about a hammer. What? Here's what I don't understand. Why is the romance community picking on you so much? No one is picking on me to this extent.
Damn good question.
Like, why? You have like 10 inside jokes going now. I have none. Like, I'm not saying I need inside jokes, but like.
Oh, you don't need this kind of harassment.
No, I'm going to ask a question, and you're probably going to be like, why you got to attack me like that? Do you think it's because you let yourself get riled by stuff? Like, somebody does something, and you display that you get riled, and then everybody's like, ha, we know how to get him. And then everybody's like, piling on.
Is there a reason to...
Oh, but someone has says you asked for it. I mean, look how he's dressed.
What?
You're asking for it. That's how you're dressed. You wear it, You're getting puns if you're going to wear that kind of sweater.
Wow. Wow. That's messed up. We write about dub-con and non-con, but we don't practice it. All right? And what's happening is
that... to me.
Okay. I'm sorry. I guess maybe I misunderstood. I don't judge. Just like earlier today, I don't remember what we were talking about. No kink shaming.
All right, look, I'm just gonna put away the duct tape and the twister mat that I had out for later.
No, okay. In all honesty, I don't mind it at all, and it's fun, and it's all done in good humor, and I appreciate it. it's a way to interact. I like
it too, because you get like, your group is hopping.
Well, and not only that, I just like that we're having fun. Having a good time. We're not engaging in things, I don't see it a lot, but you see it every once in a while where people get very upset about, well, we did talk a little bit.
It's creating camaraderie instead of angst.
It's creating camaraderie instead of angst. And we did talk about this a little bit about how some people will come into your group and it's like, well, I don't like that. And I don't like, anyone can do that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't express your opinion. It's sometimes how people express their opinions. And when we're talking about things like candy ball peen hammers that are actually candy penises, that yes, I did actually lick one on a video one time. When we're talking about stuff like that we can all laugh about, it's funny, it takes away all of that. It negates it. It doesn't, in my opinion, at least in my experience, I haven't had any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I like. I'm a jokester. I totally am a jokester. And
you set the tone. You're in charge of that group, so you set the tone of the group.
And I hope that that's been the case. That I want people to come there and to get a laugh and to feel like it's a pleasant environment. It's not something where you're going into it going, oh my God, am I going to find a thread here where it's people bashing on each other?
Yeah.
No, honestly, I don't see it a lot. I think where I've seen it the most is where it's been in cases where either the admin of the group, like you just said, set the tone, where their tone is kind of aggressive or very aggressively opinionated. And
when other people see that that behavior is what's normal here, and then the people who are going to act like that to begin with go, it's okay for me to do that here.
Right. And so they feel empowered.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to empower anyone that ever comes into my group to feel like they can't say what they want to say. But I will say that I will, like I think any good admin would, try to
put the kibosh on that kind
right.
of
It's just we don't need.
And we're here to have fun. Why are we not reading romance? No one's reading romance books because we're studying for a fucking test. Like we're trying to have a good time and escape, and that is the point of the groups that we're in. Like it's
why I started reading romance years ago, is because I wanted to escape from the kind of things that I was reading about, which were constantly
horrible stuff.
By and large, yes. Military history is by and large not fun.
Yeah.
There's not a lot.
It's help inform your worldview or whatever, but
it's interesting reading.
Yeah.
If you're into that sort of thing. But you don't come out of reading those kinds of books. Typically,
you don't have the same necessarily satisfied feel. I mean, we're in my library, and you can look, and I've got a number of topics that are definitely they're not nonfiction, and it's all kind of esoteric crap and philosophy and stuff. Yeah. And none of that is entertainment. Like I enjoy reading it because it's interesting to me and it makes my brain work a different way. But yeah, you don't get it's hard. It's difficult reading. It's making all my brain cells work, and sometimes I don't want that. Sometimes
but it's not a task.
And
reading that, you come out of that, even though there's conflict. I mean, that's the other thing. Romance books are not without conflict, but
the fact that you get to resolve the conflict in a satisfying way,
right? And that along the way there are these very sexy. It triggers endorphins in a way that you're like, oh yeah.
It's acknowledging that we're human beings and we like this stuff. We're not going to try to pretend that like we're all Disney characters and that babies were delivered by storks. I mean,
they're not.
Okay, we're gonna have it sit down after this.
Because I am a little.
I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna do a visual. No, I'm not gonna do a visual. But I am gonna. Okay. First of all, Shane, males have a penis. This right now. That's it. I just wanted to break out my tiny dick on camera. That's all I got.
Wow. Okay.
It's the second video in my group that has come up.
That is not a phrase I ever expected to hear come out of your mouth. Many things I have been like either waiting to come out of your mouth.
If it was my actual dick, it would not be tiny because.
Oh, here we go. All right, here we go. And I will point out that we already had this discussion that We will not be talking about my thing, the size of my.
I think in episode 2 of the actual, well, technically episode 3 of the actual podcast, which should be coming out like in a week. Who has 2 thumbs and needs to be editing that bad boy? Well, it's edited, but anyway, I think we discussed your huge thing in that episode.
No, we do not. For the record, folks, no, we do not talk about my huge thing. There's no discussion about my huge thing. It does not exist. Oh my fucking
Not
God.
in metric nor imperial.
Nor in any scientific form of measurements, cubits from the Bible. None of those. What was it you said earlier? Hog's head.
From the Simpson. He was like bitching about like the metric system is the tool of the devil.
Okay.
My car gets 40 rods with a hog's head, and that's the way I likes it. I'm not even gonna try to do the Abe Simpson voice. I can't do that.
But it was fine. I understood. No matter what system of measurement you choose to bring out, it's not a topic of discussion. Sorry. I mean, I'm not really sorry because you honestly, whether you realize it or not, you do not want to know. You don't.
Oh my God. Anyway.
All right. So we've got Rhonda and Julia here. Let's see if they.
This is the first time we streamed live on YouTube, so I don't totally know what I'm looking at interface-wise, but it does show a little icon of 6 little people, so maybe that means an entire 6 people are watching.
Right.
So hi to all of y'all. Maybe that's not what that means. I don't totally know. No. But maybe more people will watch it later.
Yeah, well, that's typically.
It is Saturday, like evening-ish afternoon, so I recognize that many people have lives.
Yeah, and I mean,
oh my gosh.
We don't, obviously, we're here on YouTube with you, so we don't have lives. That was when we talked about the podcast, one of the things is that we weren't going to do the podcast live because I would rather it be something that's out there that people can just go to at their leisure and listen to, rather than
and not have to feel like, oh, I gotta go and chime in and all that stuff.
That wasn't.
And it's such a learning experience. Like it's not like either one of us has done a podcast, so we had to learn everything of all the logistics of how to get that going. So that's a learning curve. So first of all, we're not like one of these guys that has a bajillion followers on their podcast, okay? So it's like we're not at any kind of level where like, oh, let's do it live and take callers. Like ain't nobody calling. Yeah. Like so I need to learn how to do all of that stuff. Let's just get comfortable with what we have learned, because there's a lot of moving parts that you don't see behind the scenes of doing the podcast.
Which is what I was talking about at the very beginning. That's the stuff that you've been doing. The other thing is that
Sunday morning already, where Andrew is.
Oh.
Good morning.
Wow, that's right. That's right.
Time zones, how do they work?
Yeah. The other thing about the podcast is, and part of the reason we were doing it is, I feel like, and we talked about this, why would we want to do a podcast? Well, because I feel like we're both passionate about this business. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about writing for a moment as a business, because it is, in a sense. We're passionate enough about it. We love the craft of writing. I felt like it was something that we could do that we both enjoyed, because we do talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I'm not here, we talk about it in chats.
Yeah.
I'll ask you questions. You've beta read for me. You've offered me incredible advice. And I've beta read for you, although I know I've got this weird thing about the mortal coil.
I'm just teasing you about it. I'm not actually mad. But early on, I was like, do you want to beta read the mortal coil? And he's like, I just want to see it when it's done. Like, all in one piece. And that's totally valid. And especially at the speed at which I am writing, which is the speed of like glacial movements, like rock formations are weathering faster than I'm writing this book.
Writing.
And I get it, because even if you get it like scene by scene, it's broken up. It's not the way that someone's going to experience it when they, as a reader.
Right.
They're going to read it all in one go, or 2-3 sessions, whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So I just keep teasing him about it. I'm like, because he'll say something more quote, and I'll be like, well, you could be reading it right now, Shane. And he's like,
and I'll admit, because I get antsy, because I love the 8th house. And I mean, there's really not been anything of you that you've written that I haven't loved. But The Eighth House was definitely. I mean, that was the first. Wasn't the first full length, but it was the first because what was Empire for the Eclipse. Emperor for the Eclipse was the first full length book of yours after the story that was in the anthology.
Right, and that's in the novella.
That's and I fell in love with that story. I fell in love with the characters. I fell in love, and we've talked about this many times, with your writing style. Your writing style just appeals to me. So when you described to me what the Mortal Coil, and I keep looking over here, folks, because she has a picture of the cover of the Mortal Coil. When you started describing to me what that was going to be and the story and your take on the story, I was like, this is not one that I don't want to read from beginning to end I know it won't be in one sitting.
Well, especially when I have I stopped to do like the Blacklight anthology or something like that. It's like that's 2 or 3 months out of. So it's like even if you're going to beta read, guess what? There's going to be a big old gap, and as a beta reader, what are you going to do now? It's like now you're like, well, do I try to remember what's going on? Do I go back and read some of the other stuff? It's kind of exhausting. Like I get it. I'm slow.
And
it's the price you pay.
Right. And it is the price you pay for beta reading. Julia, her husband, Sean, beta read and is beta reading for me. He beta read Ferris for me. And there were points in time where there was gaps where I wasn't writing on it. I had other things I had to do. It was very difficult during the time that Cynthia was going through radiation. I wasn't able to write on it consistently because that whole process was very time consuming.
And is a priority.
Well, and like we talked about at the very beginning of this, it was difficult at that time to get my mind into action. So I feel for Sean because he would read, and he was very kind and said to me at some points, are you done?
Are you gonna finish this, my friend?
Yeah. And I was like, no, it's not done yet. It's not done yet. He's like, oh, okay. Because not only are we talking about, he was beta reading as it was being written. I wasn't feeding him chapters. I had given him access to the document in
Google Docs.
Yeah, Google Docs or OneNote. I can't remember which one I was using at that point.
I will hope you're not writing in OneNote.
Not OneNote.
OneDrive?
OneDrive.
Okay, I'm just like, that would be such a nightmare to try to write a story in OneNote. So like,
Julia's saying Google.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would be like maybe halfway or 3/4 of the way through a chapter, and for him it would just come to a stop. Because that's where I had stopped, and he'd wait and wait and wait and wait, and then he'd like send me a note. Is that the end of the chapter? And I'd be like, oh God, no, we're not.
Yeah, I only did one document that was like that, and that's afterwards. I had like a live. I wrote that in Google Docs, which never again. That doesn't suit my process, and I'm not co-writing with anyone, so I don't need to share it.
Yeah.
So I just write in Scrivener now. Before Scrivener, I was doing Word, and if I needed to, I could use Word again, and I would be fine with that. But I just write the chapter or the scene I'm going to do, and then I just copy and paste it into a Google Doc, and then I share that with my people that are doing it. I have a couple of folks that I share every scene, and then I have another author that I just share one chapter at a time. So I'll send like however many scenes comprise that chapter. Yeah.
Well, with Sean, it was scene by scene.
But I come to understand that, quote, normal people, when beta reading happens, they send the whole completed book. And I quite frankly don't have the like delayed gratification settings in my brain to do that. Like if I don't get some kind of reassurance as I go, I'll never finish anything.
And not only that, I guess maybe I should differentiate. Maybe what Sean was doing was alpha reading, and beta reading is because I did have people who.
Yeah, I don't understand totally the difference between those two things, but whatever it is, there's very nice people helping us through this process and keeping us going.
Yeah, and keeping us going. But in Sean's particular case, yeah, he was at several points like, are you done? And I would be like, no, God, no, it's not done.
Literally in the middle of dialogue, just nothing. Like, is like, yes, it's avant-garde. That's how I'm ending this
Right, yeah.
entire book. That's where it ends.
Yep.
You just have to figure out the ending on your own.
Right. You decide how this story ended. Did they get together or did they fall apart? No, it was that's just the method that I've been using, and so sometimes it works. And in my case, this story I'm so invested in, I want to read it like I keep using this term, pristine.
Pristine.
I want to crack open the cover and I
just want to dive into Perseus and their lives.
That's right.
Well, I hope I can get. I'm gonna say that like the next week or so, it's probably gonna be tough, but then maybe I can buckle down more. My dad's coming here like 2 days after you're leaving, so it's just gonna be like.
Yeah, I know. That's what the beginning of this.
And then like when people leave, because then I go, well, I'm behind on my book cover work, so I have to prioritize other people's stuff before myself. Because I don't want to be mean. Like it's just reality. Like other people that have their own books to put out, they're like, I don't give a crap about what you're doing. Fix my cover. What are you doing? You take all day about it. Like, so I'm like, I get it. And like, that's the priority. Yeah. So that's going to get worked on first. And then when I can get that under control, then we'll get back to Mortal Coil.
Yeah. And I have stuff that I'm working on right now. And now that some of the real world stuff has calmed down a little bit, I'll be able to get back to that.
That's good.
And focus on that again. And so, it's again, what the original intent of this whole conversation when we talked was about
the stuff distracting
you. About real world things that go on in our lives that distract us from doing sometimes what we'd love to be doing most.
Yeah, because like you said, if it was just clerical type office stuff that you just check off some boxes. I mean, I'm not trying to diminish anybody's job like that, but I've had jobs like that, and the point is I didn't have to use the same parts of my brain. That's not engaging creatively to like run up a bunch of reports or to answer emails of people. It was not the same thing. And so
it's not. It just engages a completely different. Yeah. And for whatever reason, it seems like, at least in my experience, I can engage those parts of my brain and get through a day. And it might not be my most productive.
But somewhat reliably, you could just grab that area and go, okay, I know how to do this, and let's just do it and plug through it. But writing is kind of like, is the weather right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we talked about last night about, I asked you the question, when you're writing, do you listen to music? And
we were, it's interesting because everybody's different. We were kind of, I don't want to say surprised, but I was interested to hear the differences. Like Shane has written some stuff in the past where he was having no problem with his writing music having words in it, like songs with like pop songs with like lyrics and rock songs and stuff. And I cannot. I can't have words going in one ear while I'm trying to make more words come out of my brain. Like that's too much words. I can't do all that at once. I can't listen to music with words when I'm writing at all.
And for a while there, I could.
Actually, that's not true. That's not true. I do have one station that has some music that some of it has words in it, but it's very kind of chill, low key. It's not like real brash, loud singing. It's very mellow. Yeah. Stuff you could ignore, kind of.
It's not.
It's not words you have to pay attention to.
Enter the Sandman, like we were listening last night. And like I was saying last night, I don't know why, but there just came a point. Well, I think it was when I started writing Ferris. I started writing Ferris, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't have music with any sort of lyrics. Yeah. I just couldn't.
It's distracting. Right. For me, it's distracting all the time. I can't.
But when I was writing Jasmine with Jennifer, I was listening to, and some of it was like Enter the Sandman. It was music that it just had a certain vibe and feel, and I was able to do it. Now I can't. And most recently, with this story that I'm writing right now, and with Ferris, I've been using that ASMR-ish kind of ASMR.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just making sure you weren't talking about something else, and I was just
assuming. No, ASMR. Yeah. That's where that was the site that I really on Reddit went to, and then it redirected me to the site where I got that the nature sounds. Yeah, I'll call it the thunderstorm.
Yeah, I can do like nature sounds, and it doesn't have to be soft music necessarily. But for me, it just has to not have words and be to the mood of the scene. Like the opening, like the second. This is not spoiling anything for anybody. In the Mortal Coil, the second scene Perseus is fighting the Katos, which is like a sea monster. I know if people have seen what was that movie they made? Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of depictions of it being like a kraken. Nowhere in Greek mythology does it fucking look like a kraken. Like descriptions aren't even like that.
Oh really?
That's beside the point. The point is it's an action scene. You immediately, he's literally on its head, battling it, and like it's diving underwater. He's trying to hang on and not die. And he's stabbing it, and like it's a whole thing. So it's like I was listening to very dramatic, kind of cinematic music, but it was very, it was not mellow and it was not loud, but it was appropriate for that.
Yeah, and it puts you in the mood.
Yeah, but still didn't have words in it because that would have been distracting.
The words would have been distracting.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, we said we would do about an hour. It's about an hour and a half. Something for our way that we work, we'd always take too long.
Because believe it or not, we had told ourselves when we were first planning on doing the podcast, we'll never go over an hour. How could we possibly talk for?
Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop right now.
And when we were like finishing up I think it was either the first or the second podcast recording, and we were at an hour, coming up on an hour.
5 minutes. We're just like, okay, well,
We got a problem here. We can't shut up. That's a problem. And so we leaned into it. So we're like, fuck it.
Well, I mean, if people, you can pause it and come back.
I know. And nobody's complained and said, you know what, I would have stayed with this.
You guys will just turn on the camera, but still keep talking. Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen.
And that's true.
We're going to be talking all night.
Yeah.
They're going to leave, and I'm going to have a sore throat that I'm going to have to deal with.
Wow. Okay. Lay some guilt on.
What? No, that's just the way it goes. I mean, when you listened into some of those Photoshop screen share classes I was doing, yeah. I got a sore throat like the next day.
Oh, really?
I was talking for like 3 hours straight. It just happened. It's not the end of the world. When I had day jobs and I would have to instruct new employees, and it would all day be talking, just get a sore throat. In fact, the first time we moved to Arizona, I swear to God, the last story, and I'll shut up and go. When we moved to Arizona the first time, because I lived here before in the mid-2000s, I got transferred in my job, so I had to train the person who was going to take over for me at the location that was where we were before.
Right.
And so there was a week of training, so all week I'm training this dude. And just, you're training someone, you're talking, blah, 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 telling him how to do this and how to do that. And so the week ends and my throat's already getting sore. And also I think because my throat got sore at that time, because I was talking for 5 days straight, it's sore, so the tissues are angry.
Right.
I don't want to say they're cut up, but you know what I mean? They're raw. And I got sick. Because I think because it was raw, I got sick. Because it was just inviting stuff in that before probably would have been kept out by my own defenses. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're in the middle of moving. We're literally trying to move our crap from one state to another. I'm just every minute coughing. I'm just miserable. I'm just coughing. I remember one of the day, we got a bunch of our stuff into the new place and we're exhausted and we're like, let's just go. We just saw a restaurant down the street. Let's just go eat there. And nobody's cooking anything. Give me a break. Yeah. So we go to this restaurant and I just have this coughing fit. Already I'm coughing and then I swallow the wrong way. So now I'm dying in this, literally the waiters could say, do we need to call an ambulance? It was I'm humiliated. I'm red because of coughing or never again. So this is a regular occurrence, and it is once escalated to a public scene.
That's pretty. Wow, that's
so nothing that's going to happen today. I guess the point is going to compete with that situation. I'm going to be fine. Don't worry. Don't feel bad.
Do me a favor, hide it from me. Don't tell me if this, if Monday you're.
Because again, we're going to add to the list of running jokes. I'm just going to come in this group and post coughing memes now. I don't know.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, there you go, folks. That's pretty much it. I'm going to be guilted here starting next week for giving Eris a raw throat, and that's going to spawn about 1 million coughing memes. So there's something to look forward to. Okay.
I'll leave you with this. Go Google person coughing and enjoy all the images that it looks like somebody's giving the invisible blowjob, because that's hilarious. Go Google it now. That's what we shall leave you with.
All right.
Okay? Next time.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Goodbye.
Bye.